Good evening, everyone. Am I clear? I think I am. Okay. So thank you and welcome to the first Devatha Radhakrishna Memorial Lecture. And I'm going to tell you I'll attempt to introduce the theme. Why am I doing this? Why are we doing this? And introduce our speaker today. The stories India tells and the stories told about it matter more now than ever as Bharat rises in the global order that is in flux. Stories mold perception. Perception shapes policy, investment, and influence. It is not just relevant, but essential for India to elevate narratives that reflect its ambition, resilience, and innovation. Positive stories from India of ingenuity in adversity, of inclusive progress, do more than just stir jingoistic national pride. They serve as a soft power engine, broadcasting a new kind of leadership to the world. Far from Fukuyama's end of history, the 21st century is believed to be the Asian century. India surely has a chance to play a leading role in the coming decades, provided we create enough opportunities for our youth, capitalizing on a demographic dividend. I hope that Devatha Radhakrishna Memorial Lecture contributes to this ambitious goal. My grandfather, Devatha Radhakrishna, embodied this idea. The hope of this lecture series is to highlight India's achievements that can inspire Indians and the world at large. As India rises, its stories must rise too, not as a myth or marketing, but as meaningful messages of what it truly stands for and what it seeks to build. In the 21st century, a nation's narrative is part of its power. For India, telling its own story and telling it well is not just a cultural exercise. It is a strategic imperative. I welcome you all to the first Devatha Radhakrishna Memorial Lecture. Okay, moving on to the speaker. Eyes are glued to the screen. Emotions are running high. A wicket falls and curses follow. A six, the room erupts. These are emotions that millions of Indians go through during a cricket match. A voice that symbolizes this excitement is Charu Sharma's baritone. But to restrict him to just cricket is to miss the forest for the trees. Mr. Sharma's interests include golf, tennis, badminton, kabaddi, rifle shooting, and many other sports. To add to this diversity, Mr. Sharma has donned many hats, from playing First Division League cricket to founding the Kabaddi League, and even leading RCB as its CEO. It is a great honor for me and my family to have him deliver the first Devatha Radhakrishna Memorial Lecture. Apart from this, Charu Sharma is an alumnus of Mayo College, Ajmer, St. Stephen's, Delhi, and Davidson College, North Carolina. His sportcasting career began in 1982 at the 9th Asian Games, and there has been no looking back since for him. So whether it's a mic in his hand or a golf turf under his feet, Charu Sharma brings in an experience that few have, cutting across different sports and playing different roles. He's the voice that has enriched popular sports like cricket, dabbled in some that are yet to take off, and even championed Kabaddi from scratch to a stadium packed with fans of the Pro Kabaddi League. Please put your hands together for the man who makes even a coin toss sound like poetry, Charu Sharma. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sharma. Thank you very much. Where? Sit there? Yeah. If you don't mind. You can speak, that's okay. It's all about the youth. Sports all about the youth. And maybe she might have a question too later, who knows. There may be a seat or two empty up front, and if anyone wishes to occupy those, I'll feel a lot better, because from here, if you see there and see empty seats, you feel like something's wrong with me. And for the moment, I assure you, I've got some Dio, this, that, and the other. Is not me. So come on up front. There's a seat in the corner there. Occupy it. Or don't, if you don't want to. That's fine. But Shriram, thank you very much for calling me here. You mentioned it's a privilege. I think it's quite the reverse. It's a privilege for me to even be asked to be the first, in honor of your grandfather, to say a few words. And before we get on to the Indian sports story, which is sort of half full at best, I think the bigger story here is the fact that here's somebody who's not, of a particularly old age, but who recognizes the fact that, at least in our part of the world, and I think many other cultures, our forefathers are the ones we really owe a lot to. So for you to be doing this for your grandfather, I think it's fabulous. Thank you. Well done. Wonderful. And thank you all for being here. I like saying this because in the past the airlines used to love saying it. Now they don't because there are many major monopolies working. But the airline, the captain used to come on, if you remember, and say, "Hello, this is your captain speaking," and all of it like that. And apart from all the rest of his messages, one big message was, and we really need to thank you. We know you had the choice of many airlines, but the fact that you chose our airlines today, we're very grateful. Thank you, and so on and so forth. So in a big city, there's no doubt that you probably had a choice of 85 other things to do or go to or whatever, and then of course all the traffic and everything else in Bangalore. But that you have chosen to be here this evening, we're all truly delighted and even humbled. Thank you very much. Okay. There are a couple of rules I'd like to quickly set, and they deal with the gentleman to my right, and of course more people if they're there. BIC has some wonderful traditions, and I think we need to understand those, and maybe, I won't use the word ignore, but we'd need to, there are a couple of seats empty, come on up. Ooh, hello. I know people will leave, but that soon? Gosh, that hurts. But come on up here, at the back. I mean, if you don't want to be a part of this, that's fine, but thank you. Thank you. Now the BSc like starting on time and they like ending on time. We almost started on time, but with your permission, sir, we may, is somebody using the hall after 7? Is somebody using the hall after 7? Yes? No? 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 Yes? No? Somebody's using the hall after 7? No. So we can be here a little later, and if you have to leave, if you half get up, I'll look somewhere else and make sure that, till you left, then I'll look back again. Feel free to leave when you will, but there is something post this session as well. Can we make mention or no?
We'll do it.
Later? Okay, fair enough. So we have some time at least, if not 45, then maybe even 50, 55, 60 minutes or whatever we need. I'm actually usually very hung up, concerned about talking on matters that people actually want to listen to. And therefore, I wish we would flip this whole thing around, generally speaking, perhaps even today, of the curiosity coming first and the monologue coming later. Because a lot of people say, monologue, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, enough. But if you have something to actually speak about, I'm not saying question because that's like, you don't know and I know. No. Maybe a thought. Maybe it's a clarification. Something that can make it more interactive. I'll be grateful because then I know that I'm talking about something at least one person wants to know about rather than just babbling on and on. I can babble on at least a day or two, not a problem. So many things to say, but one thing I'll begin with without starting off on sport, and sport very often actually mirrors that, is positive stories. And we cannot emphasize enough what positive stories do to take bodies of people and you extend that a whole nation ahead. I know over many years now, because of perhaps the pressures on the media, perhaps the change of our own attitudes and what we consume, negative stories or negativity or anything salacious seems to gather so much more attention rather than a positive story. Oh, friend of mine, really nice guy, people are already bored. Who wants to hear about a really nice guy? But you say, my friend, some negative story and people like all attention. And it's all negative, negative, negative. Except my friend here who's got some good ideas about taking the positive stories forward. And in sport too, for years and years and years, in our country, there was a very, I suppose, semi-legitimate lament. 1 billion people and no Olympic medal. All this sort of thing. You're on and on and on. I know some of you are from the generation where 1 billion people, no medal, etc. So may I, with your permission, because I'm not here to in any way lecture, I think that's a terrible word, because, look at what I know compared to the 60 of you. I mean, I'm 1/60th your knowledge and your abilities. So just to set the tone here, if you guys are interested in the world of sport, even minimally, some may not be because they're family and they're not concerned with sport, but that's okay. So we exempt those. But if there's anybody else here who has a little knowledge about sport, there are some people from universities, from schools, from colleges. If you're only cricket, I can't blame you, but if you're a little more than that, then I'll be delighted, I'll be happy. And we can resonate, we can vibrate. Okay, so we'll begin, if you don't mind, with a little bit of a reference to the highest visible, competitive arena of sport as we know, which is the Olympics. Thank you. Now, we don't have many prizes here, and if it were a legitimate quiz, we'll be handing out all sorts of things. It's not. But it's a quiz. And if you want to just keep blurting out answers, that's fine too. Normally, of course, you raise a hand and I go to you and then you answer. Here, just blurt. Because then we can have a collective kind of blurt answer. That's okay. And I like this whole Olympic thing because it just sets the tone that all of us now are thinking Olympics. We're not thinking, grassroots and this, that, and the other, which we'll get to. Because where do people want to? For years and years, dozens of years, centuries, people wanted to reach the highest of the high, which is the Olympics. Of course, you may argue even there, because sometimes the world championships are more difficult to achieve than the Olympics. But that's the technicality. Okay, so the first modern Olympics were held where and when?
1896 in Athens.
You know too much. I've got my eye on you. And of course, we played this game before. There's a little technicality here, but under the banner of India, which wasn't quite India then, but it was India, when did India win its first Olympic medal? Individual medal? Okay, so there are some correct answers and not. By my saying, well, it wasn't quite India then, where it was India, the hint was that it was obviously pre-independence. Which was the medals won by? Somebody, not England, an English person in India called Norman Pritchard, who won 2 silvers, yeah, in the 110 hurdles and so on and so forth. But that was pre-India, and he was English, wasn't quite Indian, but he competed under the Indian banner because India sent a team in 1920. However, we move a little later and get to the first so-called legitimate Indian medal, which was still pre-independence, but some English guy won medals, we didn't recognize that, and then the others went and won a medal for India, which was in our first gold medal. Not individual, our first gold medal. Hockey. When and where? Where? 1928, but where? I would say yes, if it were right. But it's not. Somebody, please. This man is schooled. I've taught him everything he needs to know, and very soon we're going to ban him. There's coffee outside, we'll give you some coffee outside. But Dharamdas, our sage and our guru on the tennis court, is always right. 1928, Amsterdam. So half answer right. We've given you half a chocolate bar, but we don't have any. Amsterdam. The next time we won a medal was? The next? 4 years later. Not quite immediate, but yeah, 4 years later. Where? Quite obviously 1932, but where? Okay, which sport? Hockey. Where? This area is very hung up about Germany, no? Name any other street, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, whatever. 1932. Now don't look at your phones because, that's easy. I see you, Vishwan. Don't look at your phone. मैं लगता गधा हूँ नहीं. Okay, if you look at your phones, then there's no fun anyway, because then it's like, let's all pack up and go home. You can read about the rise in Indian sports on your phone and go home. Yeah? So no phones. 1932, LA. Gold again. Next, medal for India? 1936. Berlin. Yeah, Berlin. Now I'm looking at the German gang here, so it's all good. Yeah, okay. Berlin. It had a particular story, the 1936 Olympic Games, where a certain sport of India was said to have been played as a show sport. What do they call it officially? Demo sport. Wasn't quite the case. But anyway, a team went from India to showcase what Indian sport is all about. And since you know everything about everything, I'll take your answer. Yeah, kabaddi, not kho. Just kabaddi went and had a show. So people say, oh, wow, okay. But it took many, many decades to then get it going. Okay, 1940 Olympics were held in? Okay, so need to start banning you also. 1944 happened where? Thank you. 1948? Where did the Olympic Games happen in 1948? I'm not reacting because I haven't the right answer. Okay, never mind. Post-war, it was very important for England to rise again, and England therefore hosted in London, 1948. Which medal, what, where, how, whom? Gold. When in doubt. So far, so good hockey. Next medal? 52. Which medal? Hockey. What color? Thank you. Gold again. Okay, now we'll have to keep you quiet for a while. For the next 2.5 minutes, that's it. Then we'll test you again. Okay, 1952, where were the Olympics? Helsinki, thank you, sir. 1952 was a very special year for Indian sport. One, of course, in 1947, we'd got our independence. And yet, people were not really focusing on sport. There was hockey going on, and I mean absolutely no disrespect. And I know this is being recorded, so I say it again. I mean absolutely no disrespect. You got that on record now. But why was India winning all those medals in hockey? Well, thank you. Thank you. We'll have to start banning you too. But yeah, very few countries really played seriously competitive hockey. So that doesn't take away from the fact that India won the gold, fantastic. But it was a sport that was gradually growing, and India was just very good at it. Because we had large spaces in India, so many other countries did, but the Brits brought... So hockey, by the way, was brought to India in the 1850s, 60s by the Brits. Many people have this misconception about hockey, national sport. Should it be being a sport brought in by the Firangis to India? Should it be a national sport? Thank you for a singular answer, but collectively it would have been better, but I'll take your singular answer. No, because it's brought in by the English. Anyway, 1952 Helsinki, another very, very important Olympic year for us, because for the very first time, and most of your early answers are now correct, India won its first individual medal at the Olympics. What a big moment, can you imagine? Buried under complete lack of attention. And only later people, quiz questions, this, that, and the other, people find out. But such an important moment for a country that was beginning very fresh, 5 years after independence. Imagine how much attention it could have gotten and how much inspiration it could have given. But those days, it was all about lack. Okay, we were a new country. Lack, lack, lack. Don't have food, don't have water, don't have home. Lack, lack, lack. So the government was saying sport from those early days was, in Hindi if you don't mind, till the age of 13, 14. Bachcho, bahar jao, khel ke aa jao. That's it. And after that, don't go out again and play. Come back in and study. So that was it for sport. And therefore, our first individual medal at the Olympic Games was, you people said it earlier, K.D. Jadhav. In which sport, madam? Koi baat nahi. Wrestling. Other people know around you. So it's a collective thing. We're all together in this. In wrestling. I'm not going to ask you which category and all that, never mind. But at Helsinki, first individual bronze medal at the Olympic Games. Nobody really cared. And it should have broken the heart of everybody involved with the world of sport in India then, saying, an Olympic bronze medal individual? And nobody cares? And he was just a complete, sadly, non-entity for decades on end, which is such a shame. 1952. So we'll move on to the story very quickly. And does it K.D. Jadhav? Yeah, Jadhav. Yeah. And why am I even spending time on this? Because Indian sport is rising gradually. And therefore, this little bit of history perhaps is useful for all of us to carry back instead of a lecture. Let's just carry this story back. Where were the next Olympics? 1956, quite obviously. Melbourne, thank you. Did I not ban you? 1956, where of course there was the possibility of a fantastic story which fell just short. Which was the story of which sport? 1956, Melbourne. The story of which sport? As far as... How many times have I said... Dharam, can we get him some tea? Absolutely right. The story of football, where India finished? Fourth. What a terrific story. Because Indian football was booming those days, even though we had very little equipment and whatever else, but it's a sport that doesn't need too much equipment. And Abhishek's son is still playing that. But, you know, because you can do very well, theoretically, in a sport that doesn't require too much infrastructure or too much equipment. It just requires a lot of hard training, which is where we are stuck still. Anyway, India came fourth, and it was a wonderful achievement, but then after we didn't do too well in the world of football at all. 1960, another wonderful story. Where were the Olympics?
Rome.
Thank you. Rome. You just jumped the gun a bit, that's okay. So in Rome, what was the big story? Milkha Singh. What happened to him? Fourth. What a sad deal. I mean, just a little better. And as proverbially the story goes, why did he finish fourth? Yeah, because he kind of glanced a bit, where am I, and lost his, momentum. Possible. But before that, of course, he'd done very well in 1958. Where? At the Commonwealth Games. Asian Games is still something that India was doing very well in, but Commonwealth Games were tough in certain disciplines. Athletics, for instance, very tough. And from 1958, a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games was only in athletics, was replicated years later. But he was the only one to get a gold then in the 400 meters, did very well. One of the leading times in the world, and which is why in 60 he was a medal favorite. Okay, but nothing else came India's way, except in 1960, once again, men's hockey, gold. 1964, the Indian team stuttered for the first time. And they? Pardon? Silver. And lost to? Never mind, don't say it. Okay. These days, you never know what's going on. Okay. So we go ahead to 1968. Olympics were held in? Mexico City. What was so special about the Olympics of Mexico City in 1968, generally speaking? Pardon? Amongst others. But what was... Thank you. An altitude of above 7,000 feet. So a lot of people, especially in the jumps and many others, did very well because of the lack of resistance in terms of air. And many records were broken fabulously by the Americans and so on and so forth. But Indian hockey did what? What happened to Indian hockey? Pardon? Who said that? It's nice to hear from somebody at the back. Thank you so much. You also matter. And you matter that much more because unless you want to stick with sitting with your friends, there's a chair up front for you. Just for that answer. Anyway, Mexico, 1968, bronze again. The next Olympics were held in? Thank you. Now's your time, yaar. Now's your time. Munich. And yeah, it was all very sad in terms of the international situation that occurred in Munich. However, the Indian team, the hockey team, did what? Okay, we don't have time. Won back-to-back bronzes. They won bronze again in 72. And then, of course, the Indian hockey scenario, unfortunately, started and changed a great deal because the Europeans and others realized, well, all this wizardry with the stick, I mean, it's bamboozling us. And, of course, the surface itself, was so uneven that it became hard to control the ball. So they said, let's even the surface. And AstroTurf came in. Around the world, the Europeans were or the rest of the world was wealthier than India at that point of time, so they got their pitches going. India didn't. In 76, where were the Olympics? Montreal. Montreal, where India did very badly, because we just weren't used to the fact that our stick work, our jugglery, our magic was not working. People would just plonk a stick down, and you didn't know what to do. It was just stop the ball, hit the ball hard, block the ball, goal. It took us a long time to get over that because all it required was a lot of stamina and strength and, everything else. So we didn't do too well. But, of course, in 1980, the Olympics were held in Moscow, and Indian hockey did what? Gold. Why is it technically losing a little bit of sheen because there was a Western boycott. Yeah, unfortunately. Anyway, so we move on to LA, and another remarkable thing happened in LA, not for hockey sadly, but what's the LA story for India in the Olympics? PT Usha. Which event? 400. No. Thank you. Hurdles. It's very important here. Between 400 and 400 hurdles, it's a completely different event. 400 hurdles. The 400, okay, anyone remembers a time? Where did she finish? Fourth. Her time? No. More like 55:42. However, she was also fourth by a whisker, which is such a shame. Again, at that point of time, much as she may have done really well, and of course encouraged and inspired a whole lot of Indians, but she eventually did anyway, 400 hurdles was, for women, being run for the first time. So a lot of women were just like, what? You know, first time event. They trained well enough, but it was still a first time event, and which was to PT's advantage because she was a strong woman. She did very well. And sadly, she didn't go on to do better than she could have because at that point of time, I remember, I think the Santa Monica Track Club or whatever, the big track club in California said, wow, what a talent. Who's she? Nobody could pronounce the name. And they said, well, come on over to the US and we'll look after you. Everything. But now I'm not here for any negative stories or sad stories, but she didn't go because of a couple of forces pulling her back in. Had she gone over, she would have been twice the athlete. We think, who knows? But she unfortunately didn't, and therefore her career kind of, didn't really take off thereafter, which is such a shame at the international level. Anyway, we skipped just in terms of 1988, the Olympics were in Seoul. No real story there. 1992? Barcelona. And one of the sites, two important things about Barcelona, nothing to do with Indian sport, bear with me because we're all here together and I'm speaking like some crazy bullet train because, we need to get to other stories as well. The two things that must stay in minds of those who are following sport in 1992. Any guesses in Barcelona? What were the two most dramatic things? Of course, subjective. It could be a different drama with different people. One was? Pardon? 1992. Yeah, but no, in terms of just the visuals of it all. The visual memory. Okay, no drama. Thank you. Oh, burps, what do you know? Okay, you must get an archery thing going in your estate. Anyway, this, what's the technical word? This archer with different ability. Aimed an arrow into the cauldron and it arced over the stadium and then lit the cauldron. It was just a magnificent sight. What a way to do it, huh? Wow. Because the lighting of the cauldron is a big thing at the Olympics, and they did it really well. The second thing is, if you've been to Barcelona, where the Olympic pool was on a hill. So where the diving boards were, and diving, which you haven't said, was my forte, early forte, that's what made me, I suppose, into the sportsman I am or was or will be. The pool... yeah, why not? Hey, I'm still alive, so we'll be, who knows? So the diving board, especially, there are two kinds of diving. One is springboard, and the other one is platform, which is actually the high board diving. So the pool was on a hill, and the boards were up on top, the 10-meter board. And I can't even imagine that if you stand on the 10-meter board, and the pool would be like a matchstick because you're seeing the whole city in front of you. It's just an incredible thing. And of course, the shots are taken on the 10-meter board of a diver preparing to dive. It looked like it'd be diving from the space or something. It was just incredible. Barcelona. 1996, Atlanta. Thank you. After? 1996 was India's big story again, because by that time, there was liberalization, globalization, the media had worked a lot more. In 1952, nobody knew what was going on. The only thing we knew was poverty, an extreme amount of poverty, and everywhere. 1996, brilliant story, and that's where a lot of the rise of Indian sports starts, because of this young man who we all know so well, Leander Paes, who, by the way, could have succeeded in most sports, because, I'm a member of the Calcutta Cricket and Football Club. His father is a very close friend of mine. We used to play a lot of other sports, and Leander, in his he was must be whatever, young boy, small boy. Whatever sport was going on at the club, he'd wear those sports and that kit and come. If there was football, he'd wear some small football shoes and come and hang around. If there was rugby, he'd wear a rugby shirt and hang around. If there was tennis, anyway. Went on to win a very special medal for India because that became very celebrated in Atlanta in 1996. Sorry, I can't keep you awake, Shri, but I'll try. So 1996 was Leander's medal. And do you remember who he lost to? Agassi in the semis. And who did he win against to win the... No. To win the bronze? Not important, I suppose. You win. Who cares who you beat? But he beat the Brazilian Meligani, Fernando Meligani. Anyway, that bronze was very important. And the reason he lost the semis against Agassi was just because he was younger. Agassi was like the big boy on campus. A Grand Slam winner and so on and so forth. And the story, which you may or may not remember, does anyone remember seeing that match or anything? Yeah? Do you remember anything about it?
He was leading at the start.
And then what happened? That's the story. No! Because Leander, at that point of time, had a big grunt on his on his forehead. And Agassi in the first set was, I think, down 1-4. And he said, Yaar, ye to phas gaya main. Now what? What to do? He couldn't react and respond to Leander's incredible athleticism at the net. And Leander really should have won that match. But Agassi, being a little experienced in the game and, brash Agro-American, went to the chair umpire and said, I can't stand this nonsense. It's spoiling my timing. He's shouting too loud. Tell him to shut up. So the chair umpire said, it's okay. Again, after 2 or 3 points, again he said, I can't play this anymore. Went to the chair umpire, made a big fuss. And poor Leander was still pretty young then, early 20s or whatever. Chair umpire, Leander saying, oh my God, semi-final of the Olympics, and chair umpire is calling me. He said, sorry, you can't do this, disturbing your opponent, blah, blah, blah. And Leander was like, but. He said, no, we can't have this big grunt. And now when you're used to that and you're serving and you can't, the whole body just cramps up. And so 4-1 in the lead, lost that set in the tiebreak, 7-6, and then just collapsed 6-1 in the second, and Agassi went on to win. Pure gamesmanship. Poor Leander has suffered. But anyway, so that's the 1996 story. We get to 2000, the Olympic Games were in Sydney. And why is that a big story for Indian sport in terms of the rise of Indian sport? Did I not ban you also? Yeah. Somebody else, please. What's the big story about Sydney, 2000? Who? In what? In which category? Never mind. Okay, I know you won't know. So, yeah, big story. And even that wasn't celebrated in India quite as much as it should, because coaches were going and saying, not quite, meat bahut zyada khati hai, ye was some nonsense. Instead of celebrating it, can you imagine? Anyway, she did really well, got a bronze back, and the Indian story really started rolling. 2000 Sydney was very special because around the country, all the ladies believed, well, we can do it too. Come on. And a sport like weightlifting, I mean, imagine how tough it is. Madam, have you tried to lift him? It's just, it's a really tough thing to do, and the kind of training that goes on. Sadly, Indian weightlifting got into a bit of a downturn, a bit of a spiral because of the unfortunate use of performance enhancement and so on and so forth. But anyway, 2004 became even more important. Where were the Olympics? Oh, Athens, yes. But the quick story here is that Athens was actually supposed to host the 1996 Olympics, being the 100th, the centenary. But they couldn't because they weren't ready. Greece was going through a big downturn, and eventually, luckily, they did host in 2004. So, the Indian sports story rises because somebody came back from there, an Indian with silver medal. Leave something for somebody else. Thoda chhod do yaar. Silver. Okay, give 5 seconds. If nobody says anything in 5 seconds, then you say it. Silver. Who? Thank you, madam. Who said that? Ah, thank you. Okay, we know each other. And in which discipline? What? Okay, shooting as which particular event? Thank you, double trap. And how sad that double trap now no longer exists as an event. How about that? Anyway, Devatha Radhakrishna came back with a silver. And I remember some of the minor stories then where, each cartridge in 2000, 2002, 2003 cost 30 rupees each cartridge. And in that training, they would need to, on an average, shoot 1,000 cartridges. Pull, boom, boom. Pull, boom, boom. 1,000. Now you're saying 30,000 rupees, me, major in the army. No way, a month. Or a day, or a month. Was it a day? I forget now. Even my memory is going. So luckily for him, his best friend at that point of time, and tough competitor, was the Crown Prince of Dubai, Ahmad Al Maktoum, who, by the way, in 2004, they won the gold. Ahmad said, come on over to Dubai. And in their private range, they'd go, pull, boom, boom. And that's how he did really well. Not so much because of his practice in India, but much more because of his friend. So it's a wonderful story of friendship as well. So he came back to the airport, and very famously, a few media people were there. One of those typical complete, questions. What's the media's favorite question after somebody does something? How do you feel? But anyway, I'm sorry. I mean to the camera. I mean no disrespect to the media. I've got to say that people are so thin-skinned now in India, getting thinner and thinner. Soon we'll have only bone, no skin. Anyway, so he said, "Dekhiye, ye sab to theek hai. I'm so glad that all of you are here." But and he was kind of wry and a little cynical, which suited him because instead of saying, "Look at me, I won a silver medal," he's saying, "Ye sab theek hai, but this silver medal of mine, I'm glad you people are here today. But very soon, it's only going to remain a quiz question." So here we are with the quiz question. But I'm so glad that he was kind of humble about it and, even funny about it. But a silver for India, wow. The whole country woke up and said, it's not just bronzes, we can actually go further. Silver. Which also meant that everything around sport, and this whole talk today could have been about what is lacking and what is missing and what's going on, but I'm relating it to the Olympic cycle and why we're in better spaces, and which is also the rise of Indian sport. So it's a different kind of thing that I thought I'd, engage all of you with. Rather than all of you listening and, so. So here we are. We go to 2004, we have a silver, and people believe a lot more. What does that do to us in 2008? Where were the Olympics? Beijing. And what does it do to us? We get just tougher as sports persons in India. Just tougher. Our self-belief levels are rising every year. And so the miracle happens. And no longer could India say 1.3 billion people are not an Olympic gold medal, because we finally get the gold, thanks to Mr. Bindra, who did really well. But even he, I really loved the fact, shooting, of course, wasn't a really, it wasn't an ego sport. People are just quiet, they shoot, they go back. Like this other Vekic or whatever his name is, go back. So if you remember the media, when there's a mixed area, once you finish your shooting, you got to come back out, and then the media questions you. Do you remember what he said? And how he said it? Abhinav Bindra, 2008, came back out, and of course the Indian media particularly was there, and a couple, others as well. And the first question would have been, how do you feel, and so on and so forth. But Bindra was really laconic, cool. He said, oh, no big deal, I could have won it last time also. I didn't this time. I practiced just as hard. And, I did better than others, and I won a gold, so no big deal. Wow. First ever Olympic gold medal for India. And he was like making it sound, theek hai, har roz ki baat hai. Today I shot well, I got a gold, so what? Brilliant. That's what we want, rather than the whole chest thumping thing. But that's just me. Others could like chest thumping, and that's okay. Somebody does on the cricket field excessively, and therefore we will never get along. Shh, you may know, but you don't say. Anyway, because, big hero and all that. So what are the youngsters learning? That's what... But that's just me. Anyway, so we get to 2008, very, very important year. But what happens is that two other medals lose their importance, but they're very, very important because they mean that India is now very multi-sport. Who else won medals for India 2008 in Beijing? Sushil. Won a bronze, thank you. And? Who? Vijender Singh. Thank you. You took 5 seconds, I'm very grateful. Okay. Vijender and Sushil came back with medals, which are also very important because wrestling's always been a very important Indian sport. Are you looking at something? You can sit and participate if you like. Come here, because that makes me nervous. Like, sorry, you gotta go. We haven't even started our story yet. Thank you. Important story. Sorry, yaar. Important stories. And let's also have fun, you know. Why should only the mosquitoes have fun? So, sorry. Say it. No disrespect to even the mosquitoes. Very important because now we are multidisciplinary at the Olympics. Is Indian sport rising? Absolutely. Okay. We have a medal in and by the way, which event for Bindra? Did I not ask you to wait 5 seconds? Thank you. Yaad rakhna. 10-meter air rifle, because there are many events, of course. And of course, in Sushil. And which kilo category, Sushil? Okay, never mind, 66. So, and of course, Vijender, which weight? Never mind, category, welter. But, so more medals, more inspiration. Suddenly Haryana is waking up, academies galore for boxing, for wrestling, this akhada, everything's growing fabulously. And Indian sport is, which is why we're here today, that's the story. But it's dovetailed with the Olympic story, so that, you know, we don't get into unnecessary specifics. We all go back home with a little more knowledge, with a little more understanding, a little more appreciation of how it's all risen over the years. Why did it all happen? We'll get there too. Of course, 2012 happens then, which is London, which was fabulous for us. And then the medals get too many to count. Well, I remember, but I don't expect everyone to remember. There were wonderful stories thereafter of India doing well. Why was 2012 something that led, you know, arthritis here. 2012 was a very special story at the Olympics because of something, for India, because of something that happened a little earlier, which is very heavily related to why we're here today, talking about the rise of Indian sport. Pardon? One. Pardon? Thank you, madam. In 2010. Very important. Before that, which were the big games in India hosted?
84.
Who said 84? What happened in 84? Pardon? She might have a correction. Thank you. 82, which was the start of my so-called career, but in broadcasting. 82 Asian Games was very important for India. All of a sudden, giant stadium, you know, all sorts of other sporting stadiums, facilities. Everybody is saying, sport mein kya ho raha hai? You know, and of course, Delhi itself benefited with flyovers and hotels and everything else. It was a major boom and boon for Indian sport. Now that we're on this very quickly, I'll come back to 2012. But before that, where were the first ever Asian Games held? 2, 3, 4, 5. Where? Who said that? Did I not ask you to come in the front? In the year? Maybe you can stay there. 1951. It was an odd year because India at that point of time felt, even though we are not particularly well off and we're a new nation, we should lead the Asian charge in doing sport, in getting sport to a better, higher pedestal. It was held in New Delhi. The main stadium was where the National Hockey Stadium is now, and a few other, there was a pool there and many other things where we all used to train. 1951 was the first Asian Games held, like the 1896 Olympic Games, and I think the Nehru era did really well to get that to India. And then, of course, a lot of the Asian nations decided, hey, this is a good thing here, there's Asian Games. Then they sort of formalized it even more and decided we should be in the middle of the Olympic cycles. So they're in the 2 years after the Olympics and so on and so forth. And then they went on to have the 1954, 58 and so on and so forth, the Commonwealth years. the medals of the 1951 Asian Games are a little, I mean, they're very special, but just about anybody who took part from India won, because very few people came from elsewhere. I'm not in any way reducing that impact, but it was a start, and it was a good start. Back to 2012. The special thing about Indian sport, which relates to our topic here now, the rise, is that for 2010, India had by then become a certainly more prosperous nation. Yeah? And the government realized, okay, let's give more money, more funds, more attention, more everything to sport because we're hosting it. Because we're hosting it, let's not have a poor show. Because we were doing okay in the Commonwealth Games, but not fabulously. And so the outlay, the budget, the range, everything was enhanced 10 times for the Commonwealth Games. And the preparation money, everything. And that remained for the next year or two because the 2012 London Olympics were coming up and the government said, here, take, do. Corporate India started waking up because suddenly it said, oh, 2010 Commonwealth Games, not bad. You know, contingents coming from around the world. Maybe we should participate. Maybe we should pay some attention. Before the 2011 World Cup, by the way. And so that level of attention in India because of hosting the Commonwealth Games was very important for Indian sport in terms of its rise. Because it suddenly opened up the coffers. And athletes were actually given money to go train. There's some check and balance, but I think a lot of the Indian sporting population realized there's a future here. And of course, in 2008, another very important thing had happened, which was the IPL. So suddenly people said, paisa to hai yaar. You know? And then, of course, in 2010, the Commonwealth Games opened up people's vision. By people, I mean everybody in the universe of sport. Every single angle felt there was more to it. And then, that's why the whole euphoria lasted till 2012 as well, when many more medals were won. In Rio, it dipped a bit, very far. People kind of, there was a bit of a low after the big high. And of course, in 2020, 24, we all know 2020, Tokyo, which were eventually held in 2021, was another fabulous moment for India because absolutely the unthinkable happened. The unthinkable. I mean, shooting, okay, I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying it's a very quiet discipline where you don't really see much. It didn't get too much media coverage, so on and so forth. But the very special medal at Tokyo, which was, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wait. Yeah. Sorry? Come on, it's got to be that special medal. Neeraj Chopra and the gold. The second ever individual gold for India came out of where? Nowhere. It was like a javelin, a lance coming out from nowhere. Because India, javelin, what? Who? Which tradition? What? How? Whom? But he's just such a special individual, it really woke everybody up to the power and possibilities of sport in India. And hopefully, that story will continue. For him, sadly, at 2024, it was a silver, but India will continue to do well because every aspect of sport has now woken up, except Dharam. Every aspect of sport's woken up, and now everything that is needed for sport is gradually being pushed in. And we can talk about everything that has made Indian sport and everything that's holding Indian sport back. I will take just a few minutes to explain that, but I'd rather not, because I'd like to have your thoughts now, if you don't mind, yeah? So, who wants to know what? By the way, did I tell you this? I did something for Reddit some time back. I told you guys a story, but people have heard of this thing called Reddit? Yeah, some people have heard of it. I wasn't much into it. I think it's a much more American thing, or maybe whatever it is, international thing. Somebody rang me up from Singapore and said, will you do an AMA for Reddit? I said, what's AMA for Reddit? So anyway, to cut the drama short, he said, ask me anything. We do something on Reddit called Ask Me Anything. Will you do it for us? I said, with utter humility, yeah, well, ask me anything is what? On sport, of course, yeah. So, but I like that, because when I talk to a bunch of people in the world of sport or for sporting matters, much as I or collectively even, we don't have all the answers, but it gives us a chance to talk about a wide variety of things. And why am I shaking my hand so much? may I suggest that be the topic of our discussion hereafter? AMA.
Anyone?
No one? That's fine. We can all go. But a lot of people are just, things have changed. And I think the Indians are not the Indians we were 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago. But we are still essentially very shy people. If I speak, people will look at me. Oh my God, people are looking at me because I speak. Don't be shy. Say something. Thank you, sir. We can hear you, yeah, don't worry. Only people like me need microphones.
Do you think sport will, in various do you think that various sports would develop at a more accelerated pace if less importance was given to cricket?
Yeah, that's unfortunate, yeah. Who is to give less importance to cricket? Who is to give less importance? Thank you. Ultimately, it's the people. People's Republic, it's the people. If all of you stop paying attention to cricket, sit with a placard outside the Chinnaswamy Stadium saying, don't watch cricket or whatever, it may make a difference. We keep saying the cricket, actually in urban India now, in super urban India, most of the youngsters are only interested in Arsenal, Chelsea, man. Khelna nahi, but interest is there, except for one. So they say, oh, cricket, forget it. I don't know who watches cricket. You talk amongst your friends in urban India, you'll feel nobody's watching cricket. But that's not the Indian, there are many Indias, and millions are still happily watching very happily. And therefore, who puts money into cricket? Largely the marketing function people from corporate India. The government's not putting too much money into cricket, right? You don't find, the government saying, oh, board, very poor, here, take. No. It's only corporate India, which includes broadcast India. Because their line function people believe, कि अगर cricket में पैसा डाल दिया, I'm safe. My boss or super boss or MD or is owner of the company or the global MD say, what have you done with this $2 million? So I put in a cricket in it. Oh, okay, thanks. Next. If you say, no, I put it somewhere else, you'll get sacked. Also they feel. And so it's very safe to put in cricket. And the cricket sport itself, apart from being governed well, which is why they get the money, they don't let people down too often. We would like to think, let's not go into cynical conspiracy theories. So they are saying, well, you can say whatever you want. You see the number of people in the stadium? Do you want a ticket? Please, sir. So people are still pouring themselves into cricket. So who's to stop watching? How do we stop this juggernaut? Not easy, but the easiest answer to your question is yes. Every other sport will benefit. And what are the figures here? How much spend on Indian sport goes to cricket? 90%. Thank you. Actually, a little more. A little more than 90% of the money that is spent on sport in India goes to cricket. Let us say there are an average of 49 other sports. Forget 49. 25 major sports. Forget 25. Even 10 other sports. What are they left fighting for? Nothing. It's like, I shouldn't say this is a bad picture, but it's like street urchins looking for a rupee somewhere, ki kahin kuch mil jaye, Terrible. Should they organize themselves better to be able to be seen to be more sophisticated and therefore get the funds? Many complicated stories. There's no one easy answer. Many of the federations are sophisticated, run very well. And they go and say, shooting. We have won so-and-so. The largest number of medals at the Olympics, forget shooting. Hockey. We are so-and-so 8-time Olympic gold medal, 2 silvers and 4 bronze, and thank you. People say, Kalana yaar. No, but can we get 100 rupees? Bye-bye. And some guy comes and says, can I have 50,000 bat? Here, take 2. Hockey is not moving ahead, yaar. So it's terrifying, the lack of funds for every other sport. And we can sit here for very long and we'll talk later about why and so on and so forth. Complicated, because there's no easy answer. You don't. My heart is wrenched enough, broken. Yes, sir, behind you, my lovely friend. We can't miss you in this gathering, by the way. Yeah.
One very important reason why other sports are not doing well is the quality. We don't have the quality. I mean, why Arsenal and Chelsea and all are followed? Only because we don't get the same quality in Indian sports. In
Chicken and
football.
egg. Chicken and egg.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg.
Chicken and
But even then, if we have more academies, more training centers, more facilities at a younger age, what we do, we have been doing in the past, we were concentrating on 18 and above. But
It's
now,
got to come much lower.
much lower.
Much
Now we need from the beginning.
उसमें भी यार अमित क्या होता है कि there's also a DNA involvement. Now, where do these academies need to spring up? And where do the people need to attend the academies need to come from? The average Indian child is relatively, DNA-wise, not strong enough at times. You'll find outliers. In 1.4 billion people, you'll find a Neeraj Chopra, who's also not like a super King Kong, a guy, but he hurls the javelin fabulously. So in 1.4 billion people, you'll find these outliers. Neeraj Chopra has not won an Olympic gold and then a silver by being the 948th student of the 85 javelin academies that exist. No, he's an outlier. Now there are javelin academies. In Bangalore, there's a javelin event, international javelin event coming up. So sometimes it's all chicken and egg. How do people get ahead? And if we start academies for people who are 10 years old, say 8 to 10, then 10 to 12, if you want to know one of the answers, because everything's complicated, one of the answers is there anybody a mother here? Any mother? Yeah, mother? Will you send your 8-year-old child to go get beaten up on a football field every day? 1, good, 2, yeah. Now when he does get beaten up, he or she, and comes back home, I don't think he'll be too delighted. Yeah. But it takes a lot of beating. Football, oh my goodness, 10 years old, broken knee. What are you going to do? It's really hard because, our kids everything is rising, our glass is filling up. Maybe, should I say, okay, let's use the term, boon, drop by drop. Every single day in this country, our glass is getting more and more full in terms of sport. But we've got, to battle through many fronts. One front is the people at home. I don't mean to be looking at you, sorry, but people at home saying, no, I can't afford my children to go get hurt outside. In the early days, it was like, kala ho jayega, or anything. So we're still very, very protective of our children. Not a great way to make them super successful sports persons. Is that changing a bit? Absolutely. People are saying, go play sport, I will fund you, because of our general level of prosperity rising, which is wonderful. Because eventually, you mentioned Chelsea, whatever, Arsenal, when they're paying, 3 million or whatever a year for one of the better players of the world, great, only the best will go. And similarly, the IPL. Now, cricket's a relatively sissy sport compared to football, but the best in the world are here, and they're being paid big bucks. And so they're generating a bigger and bigger and bigger circle, and more people want to play, and more people want to get tough, and go and get that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And let me quickly add something here. A lot of people of a certain, I don't know where to look in this room, I'll look here. A lot of people of a certain generation are still very hung up about, no, must play for country, and must play for flag, and must play for passion. Excuse me, talk to any sports person here who's a true blue sports person. Sorry, I'm not looking at anyone. And the sports persons are therefore, they copy that line. I want to play for my country. I want to play my flag and my national anthem. What are they really saying or want to say? Somebody pay me the money. Somebody pay me. Somebody reimburse me, compensate me. Let me earn. Let me make it my profession. Now, luckily in India, we're still a little old-fashioned, so if you win a medal somewhere, you get a little reward and so on and so forth. But they don't, any doctor here? No, none? Oh, wow. Suppose I have a problem. What happens? Okay. Any architect? What a room here. So any software engineer? One? Once? Any software engineer? Okay, thank you. Madam, how would you like to work really hard at software, whatever that means? I don't know, because I'm tech illiterate, but something it means, no? Being a software engineer here and here. How would you like to work the first 20 years of your software engineering life? Work really hard, and I know you guys do, from, I don't know, 8 a.m. to 12 midnight, and not get paid a rupee. Would you like that? Is that why you became a software engineer? I want to be a hard-working software engineer so I can change the world, but don't worry about paying me. No, 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 you keep the money. Why should sport be different? And why do we keep lamenting and crying, oh, look at him earning so much. Let him be, yaar, please, for heaven's sake. Let sports persons become professionals and earn because of their skill. Don't please, hold that back from them. Because they have the shortest possible life as a profession. 5 years, 3 years, 10 years. That's it. Then what? And we are grudging them some money that they're making of the sport to become a professional to play really well? So this room must change into 10 and into 100 and whatever, this whole thing. Not grudging people making money in sport, you should be encouraging it. Only then will we continue to grow in Indian sport. We have a little more time. Please. Yes, sir.
Charu, we talked about the dominance of...
Yeah, speak a little louder. It's okay. It's okay. He speaks loud.
I don't need the mic.
Yeah.
It's for the camera.
Oh, it's for the camera. Beg your pardon. We'll share this. Can we take this microphone as well? We'll share this one. Yeah? Thank you. 1, 2, no. Thank you. Yeah, Shri.
Yeah, so the gentleman in the back asked about cricket and how dominant cricket is, right? So cricket has been dominant in India for decades now, and as you talked about the IPL since 2008, also generating thousands of crores, right?
Even before that, there was a lot of money going to
yeah,
cricket.
exactly, going back even before that. So by far and above, it's the dominant sport in India, with money pouring into it. And the IPL has really brought, as you said, all the talent from across the cricketing world to India for many years now, 18 years now, right? But why is it that despite all this money and dominance, countries like Sri Lanka, New Zealand, tiny countries with very little money in them, with far fewer cricketers, are able to win the World Cups, are able to dominate in world competitions, right? Our sheer size, our sheer money should make us disproportionate winners in all these global tournaments.
As they say, I don't know, but I believe so, money can't buy you love. Money can't buy you success either, but it's a big help. And by money, I don't mean only money, also size. Why should some poverty-stricken, generally, runners from the Rift Valley in Kenya be the best runners in the world? So there's a lot of DNA, there's a lot of tradition, there's a lot of other things why should Indians do well at hockey? We're not the biggest and the best and what have you, but there are traditions that develop in various countries. And because such few countries play cricket anyway at a higher level, it's entirely possible for this small group of 8-9 nations to be of similar standard. Because the cricket has a huge tradition. In Sri Lanka, from schools cricket onwards, it's a huge thing in Sri Lanka, where people are growing up, they say, well, I want to be a cricketer because I know that there's some success possible. The 1996 World Cup, of course, win meant a lot to them. And so they have a relatively large pool. They're tough as nails, those Sri Lankan guys. They might share some common DNA, but they're very, very tough. New Zealand, extremely tough, mentally, physically. So these smaller countries can also do well. West Indies, what is it? It's a few people per island, but they are very tough generally. So there are small nations that can do really well at sport, but there has to be a certain level of prosperity to take that ambition forward. Sri Lanka, not very much, but their cricket is supported very heavily from school level onwards, especially in the urban areas, the few that there are there. New Zealand, of course, no shortage of prosperity. I took the Kenyan example, a lot of natural talent there, but of course, once they get better, at the age of 16, 17, 18, and they're reasonably good at middle or long distance, they all move to prosperous countries. Whoever the microphone is the king.
Yeah. So as we are speaking about rise of sport in India, this question is going to be a little personal to you because personally you have contributed to the rise of sport in India. When cricket was everywhere, like cricket, so how did this idea of Pro Kabaddi came? And out of all this, how challenging was it to make it so popular as of now we are talking today?
Well, from virtually zero, Kabaddi is the second most watched sport in India. And thank you. In just a few years. And it gets about 1,000 to 1,200 crores of revenue annually, which is fabulous. Cricket gets about 14,000 crores. We're still very far behind. So there's a wonderful story in terms of it doing well. If you wish for any more details, then we will be here till at least the 4th of May. So later. Yeah, maybe later. Maybe. But I will say, what did it do to me? It damn near killed me. I mean, I'm barely alive because it was a really, really tough proposition. And a lot of people, no, most people I met those days thought I was certifiably insane. To the point where even I thought very often, must be insane. But I kept on and kept on and kept on because it's a crusade. And luckily, my wife, and I haven't mentioned her so far, I should, kept me going by feeding me, saying, okay, don't worry, I'll feed you. You go, run. And I ran and ran and ran and ran and ran in circles, and eventually we accumulated enough people and we got it going. Because of 2 or 3 simple reasons. My connection to it was because of commentary, so more details on that later. I was asked to commentate on Kabaddi at the Asian Games, and I said, yeah. And then I said, what have I done? I said, yes, but I haven't, really done much of it. So I went around the country wherever I could, seeing Kabaddi matches, and then I realized just how popular and powerful the sport is in India. But it's under sort of a blanket, a shadow. Why? So putting what do I know? Very humbly, I know a bit about sport and I know a bit about television. So we put those 2 knowledge bases together and I said, this sport has to do really well if it's packaged well, offered in a nice, sophisticated, international kind of package. And because of its inherent athleticism and the fact that we're the best in the world at it, it has to do well. How well? I don't know, I don't care, but it has to do well. It will do well. And we needed several other factors to come together, and they all, in the span of 4 years, when I ran around like a madman, gave up all of my commentary work and everything else just to make that happen. And I'm, of course, so delighted that it could actually happen, because it was, during that 4-year journey, I would have wanted to give up at least 1,000 times. But we kept going. Thank you. That applause I'll take. Thank you. Oops. Yeah, thanks. Always a good question. The Olympics has a certain criteria which needs to be met. It's a slightly complicated criteria. You can look it up. All 5 continents need to be playing the game. A minimum of 55 nations need to have federations, and so and so. There are things that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kabaddi could meet most of those. But at the Olympics, they're actually scaling down. Boxing's under threat, wrestling's under threat, double trap's gone, because it's too big and it's too expensive. So instead of other sports coming into the Olympics, they might not even be able to hold on to the sports they have. A big chance for Kabaddi to even be seen at the Olympics is if India actually hosts it, because the host country has the advantage of putting a sport or 2 in. And if Kabaddi meets the criteria internationally, then it could benefit massively, globally, by being a part of the Olympics, only because India is hosting it. Otherwise, we're very far behind in the line. Things like ultimate frisbee and other such is well ahead of us. Yeah, Olympics. So it's a tough gig. However, very quickly, Kabaddi did very well as a federation, as a sport, as a governed sport, to actually force its way into the Asian Games in 1990. Which was a very big move for Kabaddi to become international, not just a local sport or a one-country sport. And in 1990, the Asian Games were very, very important for India, because every time India went to the Asian Games, they won a few medals, gold, silver, this, that, and the other. I think they won some nearly 200 golds and some 350 bronzes and some 200-odd silvers at the Asian Games over all these years. 1990, the Indian contingent went to Beijing, the Asian Games, and came back with only 1 gold medal, which was a Kabaddi medal, because it was being introduced for the first time. Other nations were there, but India won, saved face. So it was a very special Asian Games for Kabaddi and for India, and so on and so forth. But its journey to the Olympics, we're far behind in the line, and the only way we can be leapfrogged to the top of the line is if India hosts the Olympics, which I think is generally very difficult, but I think we are now prosperous enough to perhaps put that money in Ahmedabad.
Hi, Charu.
Yeah,
so,
sir.
Yeah. So there are certain government schemes like TOPS which promote particular players to fund them. Also into sports which haven't really done great. Similarly, it's slightly controversial, but there are also Indian states which get some funding from the government while they haven't really produced anything significant.
Indian states get it from the state itself.
No, from the government of India.
The government of India is only sometimes for infrastructure.
Yeah.
But not for paying people out.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think like certain sports should not be focused at all? Or
Okay, that's a good question. But I'm going to give you a slightly different answer. We shouldn't be playing favorites. Because, people come to me and saying, sir, I want this and want that in ball badminton, and nobody's paying me attention. No, it's a little tough, ball badminton, to be paying attention. So we can't say, no, this sport we will not give anything for. All sports are open. We'll give you a little something, we'll see how it goes. The two ways that can happen organically and are happening, a little slowly, but the momentum will rise. The wave will become larger and larger, that wave. Not a tsunami yet, but a big wave. Where states are now adopting a sport, and of course, no better example than Odisha and cricket and hockey. Fabulous what they've done for hockey. It's become the #1 global center for the game. Bihar saying, acha, we'll also do something. They actually sponsored the Patna Pirates Kabaddi team, saying, Tamil Nadu saying, we're not, less than anybody. They are now taking to chess and a few other things. Haryana, of course, can take to any sport. And many other states are rising to this whole concept of let us adopt at least one sport and pay it a lot of attention, effort, energy, money. That's a great way forward because when the state comes in, everything is yours. Stadium's yours, everything is yours. Second thing, of course, is corporate India, which is very, 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 very far behind. And what corporate India, this is only my own subjective viewpoint, how much is corporate India doing for sport right now in terms of percentage as much as it could do according to me? How would you know my answer? But, guess. Pardon? Well, it's got to be more than 0, but not much more than 1%. 1% is what corporate India is doing for sport in India. Well, that's just, doing for sport. Yeah. So there's something called, when you come to the corporate world, and most of you could be corporate world members, I was a member of the corporate world in the 80s, it's all jargon, and one very important piece of jargon is ROI. What's ROI? And many of these, sessions that we have in sports and panel discussions, no, I don't like, the world of sport, no, the ROI is very, you can't look for ROI everywhere. In sport, whether you like it or not, at least for me and those who believe in it, most of you here, is a massive, one of the biggest nation builders. And corporate India is not yet at the point where they're realizing that when we help, assist, do sport, we're developing the nation. Yes, we have a few other problems, which is a problem because we have, roti kapda makan. I mean, people don't have homes, people don't have water, India, if you look at the negative side, it's a terrifying story. But sport can uplift more than many other things. And corporate India will gradually realize and move towards it and do a lot more. And I'm not being vague here. I can talk to you in detail later, but they can do a lot more by not merely sponsoring, but by actually beginning these things that you talk about. Who talked about academies? Amit, you did. Okay. Now, academies need a MyBap. They need a person running it. They need, they need land. They need infrastructure. And okay, just very quickly, one small example of how corporate India can move ahead is that a lot of corporations, companies, firms, tend to have land, whether it's their office land, whether it's their factory land, or whatever it is. And a lot of it is, oh, lovely landscape. Thank you for the landscape. I'm saying, excuse me, can you start a small sporting academy there and fully fund it? It could be table tennis, it could be, I don't know, anything, carom, chess, it could be cricket, it could be athletics, big track, anything. Take care of that, begin a high-performance academy, you'll find that it's full in no time, and the corporate can actually service it very well because they have governance, they have the funds, they can really do a fabulous job. And imagine 100 such companies, or 1,000 later, or 10,000 companies doing this. Indian sport can boom so quickly, so easily. Sorry, Dharam.
Yeah, just, have you answered the previous question fully, or?
Can I ever answer anything fully? But
My question is,
one sec, hold on, babe, we have to have a microphone. One for the camera, two because he's the leader of the pack.
my question takes you back to your core sport of diving and swimming. And swimming being such an important life skill that everyone here should be at least knowing, forget, competitively swimming. Why isn't it an integral part of our academic system in the country that every child learns to swim? And maybe that might be a big incentive for us to do better in swimming at a later stage. I understand your point about the DNA part that you keep bringing up every time. And swimming might not be the perfect sport for us Indians, but it is such an important life skill. And having learned so much in the pool from you also, it's an incredible life lesson. Thank you again.
Well, that's very kind of you, Dharam. I mean, just because of where we are as a nation, when you say, why not every child? I mean, 80% of the children in India go to schools that don't have even a building here. So it's very tough to say, here's a pool, come on, swim. So just the availability of a proper, controlled swimming surface is a big problem. We have lakes and rivers and all that. They're essentially very dangerous because you don't know what's underneath. A pool and a lake or a river, it's a no contest because rivers have eddies and currents and this, that, and the other. You can carve an area out, but when you're in a school somewhere and the river's like 20 kilometers away, so it's just impractical for people to take to swimming as a sport in India, but as a life-saving skill, very, very important to just do as much as we can, at least in urban India where there are pools. Every parent here, please, take your children, make sure that they learn two urban skills which are very important. One is a life skill, one is a global #1 life-saving skill, which is swimming. Must know how to swim. You read the newspapers, who said heart wrench? The heart is wrenched every day. 2 drowned, 4 drowned, friends drowned, parents drowned, children drowned. Heartbreaking. Jumped into a pond, didn't know how to swim. Friend jumped in after, didn't know how to swim. 4 people jumped in after to save, didn't know how to swim. Are It's a killer. It's not funny, but it's a killer. So learning how to swim is very important, without doubt. Wherever there are swimming pools, particularly, the swim lessons should be, parents just blindly go dump your children in a pool and make sure they learn how to swim because it's a life-saving skill. It's a bit like learning how to drive. The second most important is learning how to drive. You don't know how to drive, you're finished it. What do you do in a big city? But swimming is far more important because you may or may not be able to own a vehicle, but you certainly should own your own life and be able to swim. But in terms of succeeding in swimming as a sport, it is one of those many sports, such as tennis, where India is not a big tennis center in terms of world's best. Swimming, world's best, not here. Give me 2 nations where swimming, world's best. Australia, US, whatever, When you're 10, 12 years old in India and you're a budding swimmer or a budding tennis player, there's only one way out, which only 1 out of 1 million people can follow. Get that boy or girl, pick him up, send him on a flight to Australia or the US or a couple other swimming nations and never bring him back or her. Because only there is a level of competition sufficient for your child, for a sports person, to really grow quickly. And if they succeed there, great, because best in the world. Who are your competitors? Best in the world. In India, I'm under 16 champion. I mean, I'm a diving champion, whatever, So what? Who are we competing against? So certain sports you need to just go outside of India. You can't be competing here because you're the best in the country at the age of 15. Then what? Where do you go? And then suddenly you realize how far behind you are in the world. Whoever's the microphone, please do one this side, one that side, and we'll
Can
go.
I be permitted? Am I
Pardon?
permitted to
Yeah,
ask a
please.
question?
Yeah. Well, we can't hog, the front row can't hog it.
You can't? Okay. Can I?
Go for it.
All right. My question is, of course, coming back to education. In India, the quest of wanting to play professional sports, most of the sports people, because of our education system, underperform in academics for various reasons. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. That's the point. And whether measuring of under 12, under 14 exactly comes in your school, and the compulsion to finish this 10th and 12th. We are in that the pressure cooker system. Most of them give up professional sports. And in India, it's sports or education, because it's not, we have yet to arrive at that stage where sports is education, unlike the Western world where university sports is as big, and kids who come to Olympics, that in America especially, come from college. How do we look at, because our education system is so rigid, it is absolutely tightening on box, which does not allow sports to encourage.
Or sports persons to take to it in larger numbers.
That's true.
Now, you, Mahesh, are doing a lot of work. By the way, you can meet him separately because he's ensuring that youngsters have access to a form of education that is still acceptable by the powers that be and allows people freedom in pursuing professional sport, which is a very important aspect. And it will grow in India. Unfortunately, even now, it involves prosperity. Now, prosperity has an inherent problem. Because who can afford a better education, who can afford to be a professional sports person, usually has to do a lot with money. And I'm sorry, it's been 20 minutes or so, I haven't said it to the camera, I'll say it again. I mean no disrespect. But those who have the hunger for doing really well at sport, it's an inverse proportion, have the least money. Those who are extremely well off are saying, sport क्यों खेलना है मुझे? जो चीज मुझे चाहिए वो तो है मेरे पास. जहां तक दिखता है वो सब हमारा है. So then, why would you want to blood, sweat and tears for what? There are exceptions. Let's not talk about exceptions. So it's a complicated matter in that if there were an easier formula to provide them a certain amount of education to be able to graduate 10th or 12th, inexpensively, you'll find 9 out of 10 children in India would follow sport and play sport, saying, so what? I mean, I'm following my dream. If I don't make it, I have some education anyway, I'll be okay. And there are certain socio-cultural things which are a problem because in many developed countries, richer countries, blue collar is not a problem. You find a construction worker in New York, he'll have his own car, he'll go to the pub, he'll have a girlfriend. He's like anybody, a hard hat. Imagine a construction worker in India. So, prosperous nations and poorer nations have huge disconnects in terms of what you can do for a living and be respected for it. Do we respect the guard outside or somebody, we have inherent disrespect for those who are at different professions. And that it'll take a long time to change. Yes, madam.
Hi, this is a bit left field, but basically...
AMA.
Right. So in the last Olympics, there was, I think, this Chinese athlete during a judo Chinese athlete, and there was a particularly disturbing video where we saw his coach sort of slapping him during the break or something, and this was sort of uniformly outraged against on Twitter. But I remember seeing one comment that said, I don't think the rest of us understand the lexicon of contact sports and how aggressive things really are. And to us, what looks really, really disturbing might actually be par for course in this sports. And just as someone who's ensconced in the world of sports, I wanted to know what you think about this.
Well, the world of sport is not a world that exists away from our world. It's a part of our world. It's a microcosm of the earth. And say a parallel, if some child is at home studying really hard for the 10th, but not studying, an average parent in the past would have done what? Okay? Saying, what are you doing? Come on, you're going to exam tomorrow. So So it's not limited to the world of sport. I think people who are coaching or parenting or whatever, who are really keen for that person to do well, there's so much hope and expectation and frustration at times that it comes out a little aggressively on occasion. In sport, perhaps in other fields as well. And tell me one person who has not faced aggression when things have not been going well in your own world from somebody who's your mentor or senior. It's a very natural reaction. Am I condoning it? No, because things have changed and you can't be overtly, I suppose, what's the word here? Not aggressive, but overtly physical, thank you. But it's an outpouring. And between a coach and an athlete, if that outpouring is something that the athlete understands, we have to leave it between those two. We can't interfere. It's like going into a house and getting involved in a quarrel between the husband and wife. You want to butt out of that. Let's not make global sweeping things about, oh my God, so-and-so got slapped. It's between them, really. And whatever their equation is, maybe the night before, the athlete slapped the coach. I don't know. We didn't see it. I'm sorry, it's not funny. We didn't see it. But it's just a show of frustration. And it shouldn't be there. It's like, stuff that happens in the cricket field outside of the dressing room, which can get aggressive. And you feel, what's going on? I mean, the people have been slapped in the cricket field as well by a colleague. I'm not condoning it. I think that my world is actually very soft. It's very non-aggressive. It's very non-physical. But I realize there are many worlds out there. And one of the things I'd like to leave behind as a general observation, to do with the world of sport as well, but generally too, we don't really ever know enough about certain situations to be making a judgment. And the less judgmental we are, the more even-keeled we will be in life, because we make judgments too quickly without really knowing what's going on. And I don't condone violent physical behavior at all, ever, anywhere. But between a coach and a ward, or a parent and a ward, or whoever, there are certain shows of aggression and frustration that we will never know enough about. And while we don't condone it or encourage it, we have to not comment on it as if it were our own life and death. I don't know if I'm answering you, but that's my stand. Yes, madam. Anybody who's got the microphone,
Hi.
Go for it.
Hello. You've told us a lot about athlete successes, performance successes over the past century plus in sport itself. But we all know it because there have been storytellers like you and media and the advancements of media and all of that.
Storytellers like Sriram. Me, I just don't know me.
And of course, TV coming to India or rather proliferation of television in India in 1982, which brought the Asian Games itself. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of media that has actually resulted in sports becoming what it is today, and also the professionalization of sport itself?
It's such a scrumptious question. We could be here maybe even later than May. But seeing is believing. Simple. It's the simplest answer I can give you. I mean, if you were doing something on the dance field or on whatever else, or in golf or whichever the sport, and somebody tells you, no, you can't be doing this, you got to do that, you can't be doing, you say, but that's what I'm doing. And then you see a video and you say, oh, I see what the problem is. But for all of India to wake up in 1982 with color television and to see sport at a high level, pretty consistently, and certainly when private television came to India, is a massive game changer. I mean, you can argue that, and I do argue that it also encourages a lot of armchair sports watching. I mean, we all love sport. Also, the Yo Man, Chelsea, Arsenal, we're all watching. Khelne jao to 2 minutes on your back at home saying, So there's a lot of encouragement, there's a lot of visibility, there's a lot of appreciation, better than no appreciation, but in other areas of taking sport forward, we haven't caught up. So it became disbalanced, like a seesaw. All of a sudden, no visibility, a lot of sport, and now no visibility, a lot of sport. Now very high visibility, but not enough people playing sport. We're happy to watch. So go out and play. No, I'd rather watch. So it's a dangerous thing when there was so much visibility. Good to begin with, then dangerous because we're sitting at home watching, but not going out and playing and trying to succeed. It does have a lot of inspirational value, without doubt. And you see global sports at the highest level, at the touch of a button. What could be more inspirational? But we have to then, if we are inspiring young minds through watching, we then also have to provide. It becomes a responsibility which we haven't quite fulfilled even 10% yet. So that media world of watching has become skewed. Too much watching, too little play, because we don't have facilities, infrastructure, whatever we may want to call it, and not enough reward there as well. But all that will catch up. It's like a seesaw, really. Sometime we'll come into the middle when we have enough facility, enough visibility, enough reward, enough training, enough of everything. It'll take a long time. We're still a young nation, relatively.
Hey, Charu. Just wanted to ask about, the entire discussion is always around the athlete, and I've been a sports person as well, even in Mayo. But we never discuss about any institution or pipeline of coaches, of teachers. Do you see that as a big gap? Because I have never heard of any institute. You have a film institute and you have an architecture institute, but you never hear of...
We've got the NIS, they churn out coaches.
Privately, it's just not, I don't know, it's just not there as a mainstream.
Again, it becomes a pipeline that needs to be extended beyond our own shores. Because when you want to be the best coach in the world, you need to be with the best coaches in the world of that sport. You can't just be in a nation which is not playing, say, what do we not play? American football. It's tough to be an American football coach being in India. To take a wild example, you need to go where the high level of coaching is. However, let me give you a fun example. Well, no, it's not a fun, another heart-wrenching example. Many years ago, I was in Hyderabad starting out a training center for sports-specific conditioning for sports. That allowed me the luxury of leaving the corporate world because I said, yeah, I can do sports management or whatever, but I also need some brick and mortar. So we started that center. So people started coming in from different sports, sponsored by the Sports Authority of Andhra Pradesh, and all was very nice, and it lasted for a while, and then I realized I wasn't a shopkeeper, I can't be at one spot every day, for days on end, a bit of a free spirit. This guy came in with the gymnastics team of Andhra Pradesh, the youngsters. So I said, oh, okay. So what's your name? He said, my name is so-and-so. And I said, so I'm so glad you're a gymnastics coach. Great. I used to be a gymnast in school and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I said, so what did you do? Which is your... He said, no, no gymnastics. I said, what do you... You're the coach of the Andhra Pradesh gymnastics, maybe assistant coach or whatever. So what's going on? He said, nahi sir, wo kya hai ki? Sorry, but Hindi is okay? Sorry, okay, maybe not okay. So I'll translate. So he said, I was just generally, I finished some bachelor's, but I was getting no job. I jobless for a few years. So some friend of mine said, oh, you go to NIS, something called NIS, National Institute of Sport. They have 1 year training to become coach in some sport and all. So I applied, I got admission, I went there for 1 year, and at the end of 1 year, they said, okay, now you're a gymnastic coach. I came back home to Andhra Pradesh, I applied, they said, okay, I knew somebody who said, come, we'll give you. So I'm now a gymnastics coach. I'm like, so it was heart-wrenching, but what could he possibly do? So we need a much better pipeline, there's a huge gap. It also has to do with, again, prosperity and responsibility, and accountability, and some other word which I'm missing, so I'm putting all these words in. But prosperity for sure, I'll tell you why. And respect. Respect. Now, an average PE teacher in a school, people say, hato yaar, maths teacher coming through, hato, It's like, what? PE teachers they don't get the respect in institutions they should, because they're also taking... or being responsible or accountable for a very important aspect of the human life. Fitness, if nothing else, health, and sport. And they're not treated well by institutions, which is my constant lament. And I go to institutions and say, get me your PE teachers. I want to give them a lecture saying, come on, stand up for your rights, be tough. Don't say, sir, I'm only PE teacher. No, you're not only PE teacher. You're the big guy there. And even at Mayo, we have a sports director now, and I said, before we employ him, I want everybody here to say that when the director of sports come in, you will make sure he has the best office in town. And give him that respect, because if you say, Hato yaar, physics teacher coming through, it's not going to work. So it's very important that we recognize and pay coaches a little more. A lot of former sports persons take to the sport. They have every right to. But they also have a problem in cricket, for instance. There's a big ego. Saying, I was that player, now I'm this coach being paid 1/10. I'm saying, but that's how it is. Accept it and carry on. But it's a very important lack. And of course, much more needs to be done about it, maybe in India or with prosperity. Outside of India, even if it's a 3-month course, 1-month course, we need to send people out and not have this arrogance about me, I know everything, why should I go to France and learn? Arey, why not? You know? But it's a prosperity thing as well. Yes, madam?
Yeah, just to add to her...
Sorry, did you wish to speak, but she took the microphone, or...?
No, just pointing it out.
Okay, thank you.
So, in the field of swimming, we've hired Chris Martin, where he identifies coaches in India, across India, and trains him. So instead of sending from India abroad, say Australia or US, he's hired so that...
To train the trainers, to
identify,
coach the coaches.
Yeah, identify the internal coaches to make it an effective
Brilliant.
coach.
You're doing exactly what the lady here wanted from Mayo. That you get the coaching pipeline more solidified.
Correct.
You know?
So,
get them to be better coaches, get them to be more responsible, get them to, just find better practices. But even there, you'll find that, what's the name again? The one who...
Chris Martin. Yeah.
Comes in. Is that a singer as well?
Yes.
Coldplay.
Yes.
Swimming, Coldplay.
Yeah.
So...
This is swimming. Yeah.
So, especially in Bangalore, non-heated pool, Coldplay. So, Chris Martin will train these guys, and you realize that even they, after a while, say, I need more. Where do I get more from? Okay, come to Australia for a 1-month course, or come to the US. So, you need to constantly upgrade, no question about it. But the best way to solve it is what you said. Get 2 or 3 coaches to India. Mind you, there's a... and we are, I say it, but I mean no disrespect. We should do, that's a national mantra. I mean no disrespect. But you'll find that one of the big problems that is a human problem, it's not an Indian problem, it's a human problem, is a 3-letter word. Say it. Thank you. Louder. Thank you. So a lot of coaches have a problem saying, ooh, what him, me, So then how do you learn? So that has to be tempered a bit, and that's how, we all grow. If we have ego, we're dead anyway, at that point, right there, dead. Okay, last, thank you.
Yeah, hi Charu. So you spoke about your work.
By the way, I have till tomorrow morning, but I think we have a certain limitation, which I'll let Sriram run. How much time do we have?
Maybe about 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. You...
I'll try and do something very different, or difficult. I'll try and be short.
Okay. You spoke about your work in Pro Kabaddi and then how you used to travel and where the sports is today, right? It is now doing about 1,000 to 1,200 CR on an annual basis. And I think there were other problems around like coaches, the prosperity, and sports coming up as a sustainable career for people, right? I mean, if a sport has to succeed in India, what is the few signals which you see, right? Is it the amount of money the sports is churning? Is it profitable? Like, how do we make a sport sustainable?
Thank you for asking that. What is controllable? Can you control the controllables? Can't control the uncontrollables. It's like a cliche. But what can you control? As a federation, as an association, as a group of people, as a pool, as an academy, whatever. Governance and ethics. That's what you can control. You can run a really clean, well-run, sophisticated ship. What are you going to do? I mean, if the person's not... Can you bop people on the head and make them succeed? No. You can only provide a really clean ship. You can provide a clean pool, a well-run pool, whatever establishment you're running. An event. Sophisticated, clean, international practices in terms of governance, in terms of ethics, in terms of accounts, in terms of all of that, in terms of management. That's what's in your control. Not the standard that you're churning, because that depends on so many other factors. You know, the kind of blood, sweat, tears that each individual is putting in and so on and so forth. So that's what I'd like to focus on, because that you can. I mean, there's no excuse for saying, no, yeah, well, pool's dirty, so what to do, sorry. No, hey. So that's the focus. And then everything else takes off from there is one naive answer that I'd like to give. I mean, I can't give an expansive answer, but at least focus on what you can control and make sure you're the best. Why should you be second best in terms of your ethics? Yeah? So, not just in sport, in life. So, but sport is a part of life. Yeah, please. By focusing exactly on that. Governance, governance, governance. Clean, clean, clean. Reputation, reputation, reputation. So we got some owners who were very reputed in their own fields to get some respect. And the respect to Kabaddi has come not only from 90% from the athleticism of these gladiators who play the sport, but whatever else was possible, we did in terms of cleanliness of the event. Clean. Not one point where something went wrong because you were lax about it. So the only committee I'm on in the Pro Kabaddi League, now I don't run it in any executive fashion, is the Ethics and Governance Committee.
Yeah, good evening, sir. As you mentioned that India's...
sorry. He started off by Mr. Sharma. Somewhere along the way he got to Charu Sharma, even that's okay, but just Charu.
Yes, Charuji. As you mentioned in your talk... Okay, I'm used to it. Okay, Charu. So as you mentioned in your...
little kids come up. Hey, Charu, how are you doing? I said, oh, I'm okay. So it's okay. I'm of all ages.
So sweet of you. So when you mentioned that India is still a young country, I mean, when you mentioned it, my question is India really, really ready to host 2036 Olympics? Is it really... when we see India still lack... a few infrastructure when needed. So that is one question.
Let me answer that right now. Simple answer, no, we're not ready.
Okay, and still
but the complicated answer is, I wish we can soon, because it'll be a massive fillip. What the 82 Asian Games did, what the 2010 Commonwealth Games did, the Olympics will. Can we afford it? In a delusional sense, maybe we can, saying we spend so-and-so billions on this Olympics, but people still died because they didn't have food. Can we ignore that? Okay, let's ignore it and move on. If we have that kind of a memory, we can do it, still. But we can't possibly do anything in our country if we keep saying, yeah, he doesn't have food to eat, doesn't have water to drink, doesn't have a roof over it. Where will you be? How sociable can you be? Can everybody in this room have his or her own private helicopter? Till then, we don't do any sport? Or what, where, when? So yeah, I think, are we prosperous enough at this point of time in terms of corporate India and the government to be able to do this? Certainly corporate India can rise to the occasion. And we can hopefully do the 2036 Olympics, but it's a stretch. Also, the Olympic, IOC is looking for countries that are doing very well at the Olympics to be able to host the Olympics. So we need to, from now till then, get at least 10, 12, 14 medals, do better, which means putting a lot of money into sport and infrastructure and training and coaching and everything else. Now onwards, not planning for the Olympics, now to do better to be able to get the Olympics. So that's one. Next.
Physiologically, do Indians really have the DNA or the physique needed to compete at the global level? So when it comes to middle distance and long distance, we are still lacking a bit. I mean, this is just an understanding.
You're talking about athletics or swimming or?
Athletics.
Simple answer, we have a serious physiological deficit to begin with. But remember, 1.4 billion people at last count. Right now, 1.45. There will be outliers. There will be really strong people, really tall people, really this, really that, but they need to be identified and pulled into high-performance academies. So there are ways out, without question. If you say the system has to now start producing, that in many sports might take 50 years. It takes time. A system takes time. You can't say, I have 40 tennis courts here. By 2028, no, nothing. It might take till another 15 years. Got to be patient. Yeah, champions not because our physiology is the way it is. We're all children to parents where we may not get the best nutrition till age 5 or whatever. We don't know. So, and typically in urban India, we also lack the hunger. Who wants to work hard, go out in the heat for 10 hours, be hitting balls, forget it, yeah. I'll become an engineer and, sorry, but you know, sorry, beg your pardon. No, academics is really hard work too, I admit. Too hard for me. But there's a physiological lack that we are now improving on. We're reducing that lack for sure, with better, many things better, but certainly better prosperity and therefore better food and better everything else that goes in, better training, better equipment, and everything is coming. But it's slow because we're too many people, so we can't give that to New Zealand, 40 people we give everything to. And this whole business of, everybody must get, everybody must play, and everybody, it's a good thought, a good concept, but it's not feasible. If everybody has to have a swimming pool in his backyard, to take a silly example, it's not going to happen here. So there's a lot of sifting to be done to get to the right people to do the right thing. But yeah, we've got enough people to, in 1982, by the way, after the Asian Games, this thing started out by the government called Special Area Games, the SAG scheme. So you used to go to special areas to try and get the archers from the Bhils in Rajasthan and, some runners from there and so on and so forth. And that's how, it was a wonderful scheme because it targeted a certain kind of physiology and everything else, DNA, etc., which could do well in a certain sport and so on and so forth. Like we do really well in shooting in many other sports because it requires just calm. It doesn't require, so, so there's a lot of work in that area that can be done. I do personally feel, and I'll share my last, I don't have the energy anymore. Because of the Pro Kabaddi League, my rubber band broke. Can't stretch anymore. Done. But if anyone here and listening, I mean no disrespect, what India could do, and I think there's one in Pune because of the government, and a couple in the higher altitude areas as well, but not one fabulously run governance ethics academy for the one thing I feel where Indians have, or certain parts of India, have an excellent chance of doing well internationally, which is actually what you said we're not good at, middle distance running, between 800 and maybe 5,000 meters. We have a tremendous pool of high-altitude born youngsters who, if trained well under fabulous international Chris Martin, etc., conditions, best coach, best this, best, could do really well internationally. That is where our DNA is best suited. You don't need to be big and tall, hefty, 6'10", 280. You just need that thin, wiry frame and a pair of lungs that can pump in a lot of air if you're born at 6,000, 7,000 feet up in the hills. That's a wonderful opportunity for any corporate to take over and begin that high-performance, middle-distance training academy up in the hills of India. And there are many areas which are flat enough to get this done. They come down to sea level, they'll bust every record. But, and there are some going on, but in India we still don't really, on a governmental level even, certainly not, but even at a private level, I think we're a little behind in terms of what is a high-performance academy. What does it mean? And it means only one thing, which is the sum of all things. Cost no bar. If there's a bar somewhere, we're not giving everything we could. And then that provides a little excuse to not do really well. Cost no bar. People don't understand that. Saying, no, 500, from 512, we've increased their food allowance to 532. For heaven's sake, where are we here, Okay, so what do we do? Does anyone have the microphone? Do we? No? That's it? Thank you. Okay. Well, I don't know, but she's taking the microphone away, so that's it.
Okay.
Okay, we have to end somewhere, and as what's the name the comedian says very famously in one of the movies, somebody stop me.
Oh, wow. Round of applause. Okay, I quickly, thank you Charu, this was wonderful. I'd like to ask Devatha Amarnath and Manjula to hand over a small token of gratitude to Charu. To Charu, see, I got that right.
Okay, I'll tell you, you did. Before we anything else, I mean, what I started out with, I'd like to finish. If all of us could, in our own way, follow Sri Ram's example, I think we will all do our culture and our country proud.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. A quick vote of thanks as that, or let that happen.
Oh my goodness.
Come inside.
Thank you all. This was I could listen to him for like another few hours at least. I hope that was what it was for you guys. Thank you, Charu, for this wonderful session. I'd also like to thank two people who are not here, but who were very, very instrumental in making this session happen. Gayatri Luthra and Devesh Sharma, my friend. Vikram and BIC for running this like clockwork. And for everyone else who are patient enough to listen to this wonderful session. Let's keep this dialogue going. The hope is to do more such sessions. Dhanyavada, thank you, Jai Hind. And before you leave, okay, you can give me a round of applause if you want to.